Responsible Use Part 2. In this lesson, we will look at best practices for storage and disposal of chemicals. Chemical stores should be located at a suitable distance from the worker's line site or housing area. Make sure that the store is secured with a lock, and chemicals should not be left unattended even for a short period of time. It should be out of reach of children and animals. Ensure the chemical store has proper ventilation, such as windows at the top corner of your store, or install a ventilation fan to eliminate chemical vapors that are unsafe. Remember that other potentially hazardous items such as sprayers, buckets, and PPE used for mixing pesticide are also stored properly as well. Ensure chemicals are kept in small volumes to avoid overusage of chemicals. Only store chemicals that you need and in appropriate amounts. You may also use metal boxes or metal drums to store them according to the size of the chemical containers. Pesticides pose hazards and will react in different ways. Some pesticides may ignite easily, while others may give off very toxic fumes if they come into contact with water. Emergency response services will need to know what kind of pesticides are in the store so that they can assess and manage the risks. Basic store records to keep are the name of the product, how much you have, its expiry date, and where it is in the store. Keep a folder of all the chemicals MSDS together, sorted alphabetically. This is an example of a basic chemical register template. You may add more columns to record any other information you think that are important to keep. Now, let's test this out. Can you list down what are the good practices in this picture? As you can see in this picture, the store is secured with a fence and a lock, and it is also raised from the ground to avoid any chemical contamination on the ground. There is also a warning sign in red on the storeroom door to let people know that the store contains hazardous chemicals. The location of the store is also strategic as it was built away from the line site, housing area, and waterways. Disposal of the chemical drums and containers used during chemical preparation should follow a few steps or procedures. You should not reuse empty containers for domestic use or dispose them like domestic waste, as they have been contaminated with toxic chemicals. Chemical containers, even when they are empty, should not be left unattended on the ground, as it could still contaminate the environment. This information should be shared with everyone in the vicinity so that the improper use of chemical containers can be avoided. The empty chemical drums and containers should go through triple rinsing before disposal. In this slide, we show you the steps of triple rinsing the chemical drums and containers. Use clean water to rinse the containers, and the water can be reused for the next time you mix your chemicals. Ensure that you clearly mark water that has been used for cleaning chemical containers. Once triple rinsing has been done, remove the caps and store them in one place before you get someone to collect them for recycling. You should mark the clean containers with an X sign as a warning that it cannot be reused. You could also damage the containers by cutting or puncturing them if they are made out of plastic, or crushing them if they are made of metal or glass to avoid reusing them. Most importantly, disposing these containers into landfills should always be avoided where possible. Once triple rinsing and marking used chemical drums and containers has been done, find out if there is a Department of Environment (DOE's) licensed contractor in your area who can collect containers for recycling. If there is none, engage with a recycling center for scheduled waste. You could also discuss with your community of fellow farmers to work together and collect used chemical containers and send them to the nearest recycling center collectively. By now, you should be able to store your chemicals properly and understand the do's and don'ts for chemical storage and keep records of chemicals that you store. You should also be able to conduct chemical disposal properly, from rinsing to engaging recycling centers. Remember that landfill disposal is a last resort and no other viable options are available, provided that you follow the guidelines provided.